Send an invitation to Crow. We'll see if he's able to reply. I sent Crow an invite. We're seeing if he responds. We discussed the show earlier today, but I didn't check in with him. I hadn't actually checked in with him about an hour or two before the show, which I actually usually do. So, okay, I got a text from him, so maybe we'll see what happens. Okay, here's Crow.
There we go.
Welcome.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay.
I was distracted reading.
Pardon
I say
me?
I was distracted reading.
Oh yeah, and I didn't. Usually I'll ping you an hour or two before the show, but I forgot to do that. Anyway, so I'll start. I'll do the prayer, and then we can discuss what we want to talk about. So I have I guess a preamble or something before the prayer. Heavenly Father, I rededicate myself to your service. Eternal Son, I rededicate myself to your service. Infinite Spirit, I rededicate myself to your service. So, Heavenly Father, I pray for the residents, council, and reeve of this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, councils, and mayors of the villages in this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, council, and mayor of the capital city of this province. I pray for the MP, the MLAs, and the premier of this province. I pray for the people of this province. May we discern the truth. May we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the MPs and the Prime Minister of Canada. I pray for the people, all the people of Canada. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the Congress, the Supreme Court, and the President of the United States. I pray for all the people of the United States. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for all the leaders of this world. And finally, Father, I pray for all of the people of this world. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. Amen.
Amen.
And I'll just add to that, I've been thinking of how to work in a third part to that that may we discern the truth and may we stand up for what is right. It's something about may we know what is right and be able to stand up for it, something like that. I'm still working on the phrasing. That's why I haven't put it in the.
I think discernment covers that.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. May we discern the truth and may we. Discernment covers a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
It covers a lot of ground, and it's
Yeah.
coming more prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
I had the pleasure of being in a basement meeting, and actually I was just thinking to myself, I was like just reflecting on the day. I was like, yeah, all revolutions seem to start in someone's basement. But yeah, a couple of hundred, well, it was more than 100 people showed up.
Really?
Yeah, looking for ways to deal with this employer vaccine mandate.
Yep.
And it's turning into a legal battle is what it is. So basically what this meeting was about was basically a question and answer and education meeting. So there were people there that understood the law and were giving people advice on what to do with lawyers that insist that you get vaccinated, and so it was, plus there were commissioners of oaths there that were offering their services and also were there to help people, show them how to do the paperwork, the legal paperwork, to hold.
And I'm just going to break in there to show, you mentioned commissioners of oath. I just wanted to, because I just learned this last year or something. A commissioner of oaths is one step below it's similar to a notary public, but a notary has slightly more weight to it. There are two different grades of. Anyway, so there's a notary, and then the commissioner of oaths is I think one level below that. I'm not sure what they all cover.
Well, to be a
just in case anybody was wondering.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good distinction because basically to become a commissioner of oath, you just basically have to be a citizen in good standing, no record of fraud or theft or anything like that. To be a notary of republic, is that it?
No, notary public. Like get thee to a get thee to a nunnery. Get thee to a notary. That I don't think that showed up in Shakespeare, but I think they mentioned a notary in Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It's that and then public.
Yeah, usually usually it's someone with that has to have a certain standard of education, and they have had to have like performed certain duties in order to become that notary.
Okay.
So one is
good.
slightly earned, the other one is just basically you apply. So anyways, moving on from that, it was interesting to see so many people that were like willing to stand up, and the common denominator amongst all these people were they just like they sensed the bullshit. They just like that's what they kept on telling me when I would talk to people. It's like they just sense it. It's like, wow. Because I was like, I was like, it would just be easier just to do it. And they're just like, can't. It's like I just feel something inside me that just says no. So that's where we're at, people. There's something like, and like I was talking with this one guy who's just a young fella, and he was telling me like A year ago, he didn't pray. He wasn't interested in spiritual things. Now he prays. Now he's asking questions. Now he wants to know. And, well, then he ends up in front of me. And, well, I'm me. And I basically told him how it is, you know, and he was just like, wow. Because, okay, he had no use for the Bible. It was just seemed like it was ridiculous to him, but he still felt like there was something there. So he was reading his Bible. And I was like, you know what, bud? I was like, your journey's going to take you all over the place. But I said, the New Testament's a good place to start. But I said, I can't tell you what to believe or how to believe or anything like that. But I said, I'll give you some markers, some path markers. I said, things to be aware of. I said, it's very simple. I said, if it's service to self, it's Luciferian. You don't want nothing to do with that. If it involves blood ritual, it's satanic. You don't want anything to do with that either. So that everything else outside of that is pretty much fair game. I said, for you to explore and figure out what you want to, how you want to pursue your spiritual career. He was just like, wow. He's like, nobody's ever said it to me like that before. I said, so I said, just keep doing what you're doing. Search. You're looking, I mean, I don't know. The way I look at it is that it's your journey. I can't tell you how to have it. I had my journey. You had your journey. This guy has to have his. The best that I could think to do was just be like, just like if you see these warning signs, just be aware that this is probably not something you want to be involved in. And, it's like there was one time I was approached by this group leader, and he he's talking to me because he wanted me to kind of get involved with his group. And I didn't like it because he kept on using a us and them terminology. And I was just like, ugh. I was like, that's almost like a service to self thing going on there. Because it's like you're setting yourself up to have this enemy. What are you satiating within yourself? That's, what's that service you're trying to, and so I don't know. I just was like, eh. So, I mean, I just politely declined his offer and moved on. But these are like things that, pay attention to your feelings and have your understanding of what these things are that you're looking at. I always say labels are wonderful. I love labels. Maybe I'm a little OCD. Who knows? But I like putting labels on things because then I can put a meaning or a definition to it. And then once I have a meaning and definition, I can understand it. It's like, okay. So now everything is nicely categorized. I know where it's at. And I use a variety of tools to do this. And, you use your intuition, you use memory, you use logical deduction, reasoning. It's not a black and white picture. We're using multiple tools all the time, every day, to perform a simple task of just, taking a drink of water. I mean, there's a lot of shit going on while you're to drink water. I mean, you're moving muscles, you're thinking, your brain's firing, all kinds.
Yeah.
And then,
Interesting.
no,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Did you have more? I was actually going to talk about you bring up the us versus them, and I wanted to be as brief as I can, but I went through that, and I think I'm probably still going through it, though I think I'm working my way to the end, or at least working my way into some kind of new understanding. But you know, the us versus them. I kept thinking, you know, say there's two kinds of people in the world: me and this group. Then it's me and this group. Me and then it's people who have a clue and people who don't have a clue. And then it's what was the latest? People who seek the truth. Oh, yeah, people who want to seek the truth and people who don't. The willfully ignorant.
Yes. Yeah.
But I can't demonize these people because they are not our enemy. I have to keep. If I were to actually give any credibility to the us versus them, it's the patriots versus the swamp. Let's say. I think we agree that there is a group of bad actors who is our enemy, or at least we wish to retrieve our autonomy from. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't even want to call them the enemy. It's like, okay, this situation is happening. Let's correct it without calling anybody out. I don't care what they've done. Let's just fix the situation.
Well, the thing is that you're kind of correct. It's like you've got to treat them like an enemy. Like you got to think of them as an enemy, but you don't have to treat them like an enemy. It's like when you get to the understanding that even the demons are our brothers, and we should love them because Michael does. Because
love the sinner, hate the sin.
And
that statement covers
everything. Yeah, because how do I know that Michael loves these creatures? It's a simple answer. They still exist. That's how you know that Michael loves them. So if Michael loves them, then should I be any less? So once you realize that we're all one family in this universe because Michael is our creator father. I mean, even Lucifer knew that Michael created him. And so, yeah, let that marinate for a while. Then you begin to realize that even the swamp, it's like they are our brothers and sisters. And Michael knows this. Why do you think that he has been so patient to help them? I mean, you can get upset and you can get scared, but in the end, it's like Michael is giving his children every opportunity to change. They know what's waiting for them if they repent. It's basically a very, very long time on the planet of the fathers. They know that that's their future if they want redemption. They automatically go there and they will spend the rest of their existence serving the eternal Father, which is not even something that they are going to be able to even materialize or visit ever. I mean, it's for them to be on the Father's planet and devoting themselves to the Father is the equivalent of a Buddhist temple. They're worshiping something. They don't quite understand what they're worshiping, but they're doing it anyways. And so that's what they know their future is. And they would rather not have it because right now they feel like they are free. But the thing is that
I'll give you what I hope, go ahead. When you've finished up there, I have a kind of a real concise example, I think, of what.
Well, the thing is that that the whole thing has to come to an end. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead now. I never heard any of that.
My dad, if he's on the Wi-Fi. Dad, comma, are you on the Wi-Fi? Question mark. We need it for the show. Okay, I asked Dad if he's on the Wi-Fi. But anyway, briefly, I was looking back through some of Q's posts the other day, and it mentioned Hillary Clinton. Somebody asked if she was an original actor or a independent actor or a puppet, and Q suggested that she was a puppet, but then her strings had been cut. It said now she's fighting for her life, and I thought it was interesting, and I don't think it was a coincidence the way that was written. If she in fact was being coerced to do some of the bad stuff she did, there's some sympathy to be had there, I guess.
And that,
I don't know how much, but I found that description interesting of what situation she had been in and what situation it said she was in later.
thing is that the Son of Man well understands the human condition and how we're affected by it. And so this gets into mercy and why it's so important. People might not know what the word mercy really means. They think that it means like withholding a harsh hand or not doing something that you're capable of doing. I guess that is probably a good description of what mercy is not doing something that you are capable of doing. But what it means to Michael, in Michael's case, is that mercy means that he remembers you. Because the moment Michael stops remembering you is the moment that you do not exist. It's also the same thing with God. The moment God stops remembering you is the moment that you do not exist. This is why there's spirit fusion, that you can carry on through the universe through Michael. If a person doesn't qualify to be thought adjuster fused or father fused.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Oh,
actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think, and correct me if I'm mistaken, there's the possibilities for what, spirit fusion, father fusion, and son fusion, or is there only two types, father fusion and spirit fusion?
I think
it mentions in the Urantian book thought adjuster fusion or father fusion, and then son fused mortal spirit fusion. Am I completely mistaken?
No,
I don't know.
You got to remember, the Michaels are sons of God. So that is the sun fusion that the Urantia book refers to, but they also refer to it as spirit fusion as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is when the imprint of your spirit is imprinted onto Michael, and this creates your soul. It's similar to fusion with a thought adjuster.
Okay, so my question was, so there's fusion with father fusion with, and then when I hear spirit fusion, I think somehow fusion with the infinite spirit. I was going to ask actually if that's a thing also. If there's an actual three discrete types, or what your take on all that?
No, there's just the two types. Yeah.
Okay.
And so you can fuse with the Father, which is the creator of all universes. So that means you can transverse all the universes. When you're spirit fused or sun fused, then then you remain within this local universe. And I'm not sure whether that means Michael's universe or the grand universe. I would think that it probably means the grand universe, because if Michael is capable of transversing the universes of his siblings, then if you're spirit fused with Michael, then you would have the same ability. So it probably means you remain in the grand universe and you explore the couple of 100,000 or so universes that exist in this grand universe, approximately. I'm guessing. Maybe there might only be 75. Who knows? We don't know. Well, the Urantia book tells us is that there's like 700 and I think 40,000 Michael sons, creator sons, and there are 7 grand universes. So if you split that over all 7 grand universes, you're looking at a little over 100,000 per grand universe if it's split equally. So when you think about the grand universe and it's expected to hold 100,000 universes, that could mean that the universe that Michael has created is not only huge, it's fucking huge. And so that would be the potential that would take up its space in the grand universe. So how big are these universes actually going to get? I mean, we know that the universe is still expanding out. But the one thing science does not answer, and I keep asking this question, where does all the shit come from? There's new stars being born. There's like planets being formed all the time. There's shit floating around in space. It's like, where does it all come from? Simple question. Where does it come from? How does nothing come to something? And that's just one burning question, and nobody seems to. I mean, they answer it, but it doesn't stand up to logic, and so it all falls apart. And they know it falls apart. That's why they call them fucking theories. Okay? That's, it's in the title. Everything's a theory because we can't fucking prove this shit, because at some point it just falls apart. We don't know where shit comes from. It's as simple as that. We really, really don't know where it comes from. Well.
Oh, and I was going to, before, interject here, the first line of Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think I'm remembering it right, or at least close. It says, space is big, really big. You may think it's a long way down the road to a chemist, but that's just peanuts. And I love the way he put that. It's so true.
Oh, man. I love that shit. Oh, I've never read the book, but I've watched the movie a couple of times. And so I asked.
I just needed to stick that in there.
I asked myself I asked that question, and I guess I've been shown the answer to it, but it's so fantastic that you're just left in awe. And I've been trying to break it down into something simple so people can understand exactly what's going on and how the engine of the universe works. It's awesome. It's an orchestra. So I guess the best analogy I can come up with is that, when you put a plant in a pot and that plant gets bigger, but you still have all the same soil and shit. But then, but that plant, it's huge. Okay, I always looked at a plan, just be like, where's all that shit coming from? And of course, everybody says the same thing. Oh, it just grows. Well, it's like, well, okay, but why? Why does it grow? And so you just wonder. It's like, okay, the universe is growing, but how does it grow? Where is it getting its nutrients? Where is it getting its base material to create? And the answer is that the universe gets its base material from us. All of our memories, all of our thoughts, that's just stuff that we've experienced. But we know that the stuff that we experience is also an electrical signal in our brain. And so our memories are energy. And we know that that energy and matter are transferable. So if everything that you experience is energy that can be transformed into matter, imagine what 1,000,000 years of experience in a universe would give you. And that whole time, you're building your character and developing your personality. And while you're doing this, you are imprinting your character, your personality, and your memories on this fragment of your creator. And this fragment stops being your creator, and then it just becomes you. And you and the creator are just one. You've got your memories, but you also know what's going on with the creator too, because you're all one mind about this shit. You've learned what Michael wants to do with his universe, and you're just like, yeah, man. And so you co-create with your creator to get to the end goal that he has in mind for his universe. It's like you're in agreement with that contract.
No wonder we think that we have past lives. The universe is made out of memory. They drift across our consciousness.
Well, all of that stuff, once it's imprinted onto that Michael fragment, and now you're fused with Michael, then you make the journey to Nebudia. Now, Nebudia, she is the Holy Spirit, but she's also the body of the universe. She is present everywhere. She's Nebudia. She's everything. And she creates the universe. And when you go to Nebudia, Nebudia will devour anything that she can use to feed the engine of her universe, so that she can keep creating to the model that her and Michael have contracted to do together, this divine union, this divine plan. And so she'll devour anything except Michael. So when you go to Nebudia, Nebudia strips you of all the energy that you have carried with you all the way through time and space. Everything about you that is time and space is stripped away, and you are now free. And now you are like, you're Michael. You're like Michael, because Michael gave you that gift. You are Michael. Go anywhere, do anything, do whatever you want within the universe. But the thing is that by the time you get there, you're going to do what Michael would do. I mean, that's saying that we have, what would Jesus do? Yeah, in the end, that'll be the only question that you'll have on your mind through all of eternity. And it's just because you contracted with your creator, and it's like, and you're going to help your creator with his creation. So it's like billions of Michaels, but not Michael.
I remember something Ramdas said about talking about various levels of development or whatever. You'll at some point you'll get relatively great power, and you'll also be given the wisdom to not screw it up. I guess that's kind of what you're talking about. You have access to the discernment and discretion and stuff that Michael does. Is kind of what.
Yeah, I mean, you think to yourself, I should just be able to have all this today. But again, it's like, I mean, I know when I was younger, it's like, man, it's like I just want to be, I just want to know shit now. But knowing what I know now, I understand that in order to know or understand the things that I know now, I needed that foundation in order to understand what's really going on. Because I could have been showing this stuff 20 years ago, and the best, I mean, I might have been able to write a cool novel from it. But because I wouldn't have any deeper understanding of what's really going on in the universe. And yeah, now I just want to know what's going on.
Let me circle back to that thing about talking about the plant grow, because I just want to run past you what my university professors told me, because I went to ag school. I got an ag degree, plant and soil science, and what they said about the plant is you have the plant in the soil with some nutrients, and you water it and everything, and it doesn't use most of the water. It evaporates it. The water is basically a mechanism for moving materials and stuff around the plant and doing other things. They said most of the mass of the plant came from the air, from carbon dioxide, because plants breathe in carbon dioxide and eject oxygen as a waste product. And interesting fact, they do the opposite. They do like us, just like a few percent. They do use oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide sometimes, but the whole reason that everybody is up in arms about deforestation, or one of them is they say the forest is our lungs. Well, the trees take in carbon dioxide and put out oxygen. Is what I've anyway. So that's what I was told in university about how the plant grows. It takes in the carbon dioxide and builds its structure from it.
Yeah, no, that's a good, yeah.
So I don't know what.
That's a nice simpler way to understand it. It just basically works the opposite of us, which also is frustrating, because it's like the whole world is up in arms about carbon, and it's like I keep thinking to myself, then why aren't we planting shit that fucking breathes in tons of carbon a year? It's like, why aren't we doing that? And why aren't we? Yeah, it's like we could be planting fields of hemp, and it could be used for everything. And I mean everything. A lot of what is being used as synthetic, hemp is just superior in a few different ways. And so, but we keep stifling our own economy, and I can't figure out why even corporations are going along with this stupid shit, because it's like, aren't you cutting into your own profits? I mean, isn't the purpose of a corporation to make money? Then why are you alienating most of your customer base? It's like they only want to cater to a certain segment of society, like that is all that exists. But if this shit keeps up, that society won't exist either. See, the engine of an economy is its middle class. That's everybody, any economist knows this. So this is the part that I don't understand. This is the part that confuses the shit out of me. If every economist, no matter how simple-minded he might be, understands that it is the engine of your economy is the middle class, why are you fucking with the middle class? So I I asked this question and there is no answer. It's like they want to wipe out the middle class, and it's like then you're wiping out the whole economy until all you got left is poor people barely surviving and rich people who don't give a fuck until something stops working, which in the 20th century, everything stops working eventually. And there's no two ways about it.
Well, let me tell you a corollary to the plant thing. I went to a meeting where they were talking about one of the reasons we have this so-called climate crisis, and it actually made sense to me. Depletion of organic organic matter in the soil.
Oh yeah.
And that's what holds, if you have, it normally has 5 to 10% organic matter, and you've dropped it down to like 2. You've lost the ability to hold I don't know how many trillion tons of water. If we can rebuild the organic matter to hold the water, and then these people were suggesting that the reason we have all these hurricanes and stuff is because there's more water in the air, which makes it, I don't know. What do you think about that? It seemed to make sense to me if you put the water back in, but I don't have the tools to verify any of that.
No, what they're saying is that without organic organisms in the soil, the water just filters down to the water table.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to optimize our organic
Yeah,
material.
and that's that's what's happening now. This is why farmers are stuck with using huge amount of chemicals, which costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, because they're artificially shocking their soil. But they don't understand. Well, I know the University of Saskatchewan is working on something, but it's like, this is not a hard problem. It's like, I'm trying to figure out why it takes a university to figure this out. Let's stop doing monocrops and let's start planting variety crops. Let's start figuring out how we should be rotating our fields. We want to keep growing, but we got to figure out, it's like, okay, if I'm going to grow corn this year, what is the best crop to plant as a follow-up to corn? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think we're on about a four crop, not us, but a lot of the farmers in our area, they're on about a 4 crop rotation.
Is that
canola? And I don't know the exact order: canola, flax, durum wheat, and lentils.
Yeah. Okay.
So I forget exactly why those 4, but they rotate them around. So a lot of it's for disease control, insect pest control, some weed control. That they spray everything about 4 times a year anyway, so the weeds don't stand a chance in any case. But yeah, so we do have the crop rotation, and people are doing intercrops, multi-crops. There's a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, but that's all like
coming along, and we'll see.
Yeah, that's all coming. Recent activity. That's all like starting to happen. Shit, I'm not sure if it's even been 10 years. I think it'd be lucky if it's been 6. That farmers have been wising up, because they're watching YouTube videos and they're reading on the internet, and they're seeing what's going on in countries like India. That the soil is just they've robbed the soil, and the farmers.
Yeah, one of the jokes in some part of Saskatchewan was their crop rotation was canola, snow, canola.
Yeah, you say you can't do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also the expense of these chemicals is probably killing them. I can only imagine. I mean, people think, rich farmers, it's like you have no fucking idea. Yeah, a farmer might make $5 or $6 billion in a season. Look at everything he had to do to get that money. And all of that shit has to be paid for. And, I mean, a good farmer, is paid forward a couple of seasons. But most farmers are running behind a season. So that means that if their prediction for crops falls through, they're fucked. If their minimal prediction ever fell through.
Let's see. You want to look at the Schumann resonance? It's been doing some interesting stuff the last.
Actually, I can't see your video.
You can't see my video? What are you seeing?
I just see a gray screen says joining.
Cripes. Oh, criminy, it's still, because I can see you. We can hear each other, but you can't see. Huh. I updated my version of YouTube. I may have to update the OS because they were on iPad OS 14.7 or 8, and now they've released 15. I don't know if I may need that, but I'll show the folks watching, assuming they can see this video. Schumann resonance. All right. Okay, there's the screen number 1. And there the frequencies are pretty well in sync there, especially the spikes. And that one, the top one, dipped down. 2 days ago, it dipped down into the second frequency. And it did it again, not quite so much. And the red one was way up above the yellow one for quite a lot. I do wish you could see this, crew. I didn't realize you couldn't. Yeah, no, it's been doing. Take a look at it when you get a chance. It's been doing some really funky stuff. And yeah, that's the last one, number 4. So yeah, they've been doing stuff I've never seen before.
I thought to remember to check the other night, but then I forgot.
I'll send you a reminder after the show. So let's see, what time is it? It's 8:03. Okay, so we got about half an hour. I think we should try to wrap these up in about 90 minutes.
What was I thinking just a second ago? It was a good thought, too. Anyways, so yeah, I'm glad to hear that the farmers are getting wise in your area. More farmers need to get wise.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, they've been, I think that's the other thing that's happening too. People are waking up. They're realizing that this industrial complex that we have created, okay, it's all well and fine, but we need to put some reins on these horses. And we got to pull them into the corral for a rest. I mean, we need to. I mean, we need to put more thought into our power needs. And smart people have, but for some odd reason, their ideas don't take traction. I mean, here's a good one for you. Did you know that there is a battery that is metal? It uses common metals that don't mix. And one of them is, I think, is iron. And if this battery is kept at a high temperature, then it will produce a current, no problem. And the thing is that it like, as long as it has a current in it, it'll stay liquid because it generates its own heat somehow. But you can, well, the chemical reaction inside with the metals, but then you put a charge in it and you keep renewing that chemical reaction. But this chemical reaction can go on for a very long time, because as long as the battery is insulated properly, it takes a long time for the temperature to go down. So as long as it has a certain amount of temperature above its threshold, it will always produce electricity and stay, and that electricity is used to keep it liquid. Anyways, this battery, it basically, it's bulletproof. It's like, it cannot explode. You don't have any overheat issues, because the hotter this battery gets, the more that the more efficient it becomes. So you can, like, so if you have a runaway generator or something, these things could just suck it all up and they just keep going. As long as the container that it's within can handle the temperature, they'll go as high as you want them to go and they'll do nothing. And so where's that at? It's like,
It's kind of like a combination between a battery and a thermocouple.
yeah.
Because you know how a thermocouple works, right? You hook one wire to a heat source and one wire to a something as cold as you can get, and that, your red and your black, and then that generates power. That the temperature difference generates power. I thought that they should put that in cars, like attach one to the radiator and one, to the airstream, slipstream when you're driving, and have your own hybrid car, or they'd make hybrid cars even more efficient or something.
Well, I always felt that if I was to design an electric car, for one thing, I'd want a Tesla engine. That would be, without even hesitating for a second. It'd be just a question of which one I would want. And hell, might even want a Tesla chassis, because the chassis is amazing. And I would want to strip it down, and I would identify all the places where heat and axle rotation is. And I would want, like, every little spot on that car, I would put a thermocouple to collect the heat. It might only be a minuscule amount of electricity, but I could use that to fill that would just go directly to the battery. And so now it might only be putting a millivolt in, but that's an extra millivolt that I didn't have before. And
in Saskatchewan, you need all the millivolts you can
exactly
get. You're driving an electric.
Yeah. And so I mean, everything. I mean, I would want to collect all the well, most cars do it now. They've gotten better at it, that when you put the brakes on an electric car, you're not actually applying the brakes. What it is that it reverses the motor, and now the motor is a generator instead of.
It turns the motor into a generator. Yeah.
And it's pushing power back into the batteries. So
and then I'll just add, because I'm such a pragmatist or whatever, I would even throw in forget hybrids like the Toyota Camry or something, or the Toyota Prius. I would actually throw on a generator, a standalone generator that charges the battery, and then have just the hybrid, not the hybrid drivetrain, the battery electric drivetrain with a generator that charges it. Like, I know there's some, there's Toyota versus Honda. They say one's a full hybrid, one's a mild hybrid. Well, if there's a connection between the gasoline engine a physical connection between the gasoline engine and the wheels. I don't want you're already shooting yourself in the foot there. I would take the Tesla drivetrain and somehow stick like the Chevy Volt. It's an electric car with an onboard generator.
Yes, that's a nice combo.
And then it automatically starts itself when it needs to run a few minutes to circulate all its stuff, shuts off. If you drive further than its range, then it'll start its motor and work. It would have to have enough power to charge the batteries at such a rate that you could continue driving at 110K until the fuel tank ran dry. I would require that because it's got to give the same performance under both power systems. Probably the reason Tesla hasn't done that is because of the extra weight and because a lot of the people who buy Teslas are in areas where there are a lot of chargers. I can understand why Tesla would, but I would like to see either a version of a Tesla or somebody to make a car, basically an electric car, and stick a generator in it that would provide a backup power source. Or they could build a car that would get 1,000-mile range on a charge. I'm waiting. It's almost happening, and I'm waiting for electric cars to outperform gasoline cars in range. I expect it will happen. I don't know when, or some kind of non-fossil car to outperform a fossil car. It may or may not happen. I don't know, but I think there is a market for electric cars that are powered by this generator I'm talking about.
Well, here's the thing. This is how I know that Tesla is not completely on our side, or maybe he's got his hands tied, or something's going on, because I've often wondered to myself, why has Tesla not painted all of his cars with a paint that is a solar panel as well? And that paint exists. And what it does is that it will collect electrons out of the air, feed it to the batteries, and then here's the best part. If you have a vehicle that is painted with this stuff, and there's another vehicle beside it painted with the same stuff, if one is in the sun and the other is in the shade, once the sun one has charged up, it will actually pass the electrons over to the other vehicle sitting in the shade.
Really?
Automatically. And this will go down through a line of cars. But what it does is that, so once the one in the shade is filled up, it will actually pass it on to the next one that might be in the shade. And this process will continue on down the line. And whatever vehicles are in the sun, if they are already charged up, they too will pass the electrons to a similar painted vehicle close by. And that would mean that if, like, you could easily set up a charging station that would send out the frequency that this material picks up on to charge the batteries. That would be your charging station as well. And the thing is that all it would be a post. And you could line these up along the sidewalks. And all you would be doing is you'd be driving into your parking space and you'd be walking away. But meanwhile, your car is charging.
What would be, I do want to ask, what's the range? Like you say, the cars are parked side by side. Would they have to be, could they be 6 feet apart? Would they have to be 6 inches apart, or what for this transmission? I'm guessing you mean through the air from one to the next.
If I remember correctly, it was somewhere between 8 and 10 feet.
Okay. And while we're talking about this, I just wonder if we could address some of the what's opponents of solar have kind of gone away more than there's fewer of them that I've noticed. But I know a big thing they used to say was if you had a solar array and it varied as to how many units or panels or whatever, but they said you have your 10 by 10 solar panel, and if a bird flies across it and puts a shadow across part of it, it'll knock out the whole, it'll disable that panel's production. Or if a shade, can you speak to that? What were they saying, and was that actually a problem, and if so, has it been corrected? Because I don't, that's something I don't know. I don't know whether they're correct or whether they're old news, whether that's old news, or whether they're just buying propaganda that anti-solar people are putting out.
They're kind of telling the truth, but that was like a problem like back in the 70s, maybe in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Since then, a thing called a voltage buffer has been invented, and every solar panel, it has one. And basically it means that if part of the solar panel gets in the shade, and then all of a sudden it gets a flash of light and there's like a bit of a surge, it doesn't mean it hits that voltage absorber, and it just stops. It's like a shock absorber for voltage, and it stops that.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
condenser. In an old-fashioned ignition system, there was the points and there was the condenser, and we had this old, not old then, but we had this hired man who knew all about this stuff, and I asked him, what's the purpose of the condenser, because I assumed it was in there for a reason. And he said, when the points open and close, there's a difference in the current. Like, it's like you have these things, I don't know if they still have them, but they would put them on water pipes. They were basically a tube, maybe 6 or 10 inches long, teed into the thing and just stuck up there to reduce water hammer, right? If you suddenly shut the tap off, there would be a buffer of air. Yeah, it's a shock absorber for an electrical system, basically.
Yeah,
the short answer to that is what I'm trying
yeah.
to say. The voltage buffer and the condenser in the old-fashioned ignition system for a car, it's a shock absorber for the electrical system.
The condenser wasn't quite the solution that they needed. It had to be something else.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, basically the same idea, that it just basically stopped and stored. But anyways, it was more like a funnel, more like your pipe, air pipe analogy.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, a little aside there.
But here's
we were talking about.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, here's the thing. Solar panels, it's like they're great for like personal use, but on a commercial scale, well, for number one, the materials that go into a solar panel, well, the people that have to mine that materials live in, well, less than ideal conditions, and that's probably saying it mildly. And then the other thing is that solar panels don't last forever. Like some solar panels, you get like 5 good years out of it. After that, it starts heading into the toilet. Okay. And it's doubtful that you get 10 years out of it unless you took really good care of it. And then, so you've got to deal with all this waste. And that's the part that really gets on my nerves about technology, is that there has been no consideration to byproducts and waste.
Yeah.
I mean, there should have been in place, or at least it should have been, it's well within the government's purview to create a law to protect the environment from corporations. And part of that would have been a recycle program, but that never happened. So
yeah, it should have been part of the development of the technology. Would have been its end of life. And
it was never.
end of life, disposal, recycle, whatever it was that happens to it when it's done, needs to be worked into the development process.
Yes, and none of that was ever considered. I mean, old cars, like right from the very beginning of the early 20th century, were just left to rot in junkyards. It's like, okay, yeah, you keep old cars around for a certain amount of time for the parts, but at some point, usually about 20 years down the road, that metal should be recycled. And metal should never have been left to sit out in fields. I mean, there, you love, there are like trains around Europe that were completely abandoned on their tracks, and they are still sitting out there. It's like, why are they sitting out there? So they should be hauled in, and all that material should be recycled, but there's no market for it. So that's where capitalism falls on its face. You see, people don't understand. It's like what we got is we've got runaway capitalism. Capitalism, I love capitalism. Don't get me wrong, I love capitalism. I love the idea of killing what you eat, eating what you kill. That's I understand that. But but what we have is that we have a system that is crony capitalism. There's no future thought. There's no thinking of the next generation. In a normal capitalist society, businessmen would be far thinking into the future about their children and grandchildren, and they would be thinking, whoa, wait, I don't like the idea that this swimming hole that I grew up swimming in is now covered in litter and debris. Who dropped the ball on that? You see, but what has ended up happening in our society instead is that the people with the money have completely separated themselves from real society. And they put nothing back because they don't feel that there is any need to. And so everything is just left to rot and nothing is recycled, and we wonder why we have to treat our water to drink it now. When you're
For sure.
when Europeans
and I just checked the time. It's 8:20, so I guess we've got maybe about, say, 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, what I was going to
Also, Sabrina's on. Hi,
say,
Sabrina.
what I was going to say is that, do people understand that before Europeans showed up here in North America, you could drink the water straight out of the Great Lakes? There wasn't a stream or river that you couldn't drink out of in this whole country. And in less than 300 years, wow, we're good. We're really good. But yeah. Hey, we never got to any politics.
Oh, really? We didn't. That must
That
be a
must
first.
be a first. Holy.
What's happening in the news?
Well, everything.
I haven't been
Yeah.
watching it. I just knew Trudeau got back in, and somebody was arrested for crimes against humanity or something. I don't know, but
There's a lot.
yeah. Let me just. That's interesting. Well, no, I can. Right. You go ahead.
There has been a lot of arrests, and we're back at a point where it's like all the shit that has been going on for the last year has now piled up, and the chickens have come home to roost, and the politicians don't like it. It's like Australia is exploding. most people here in Canada are just fed up by the looks of things. I mean, they just
Yep.
they're just done with this shit. I mean, the cancellation of Thanksgiving, I think, was pretty much everybody's last straw because
Mm-hmm.
everybody at once asked the same question. Um, we've been open for a while and nothing has happened. And what makes this weekend any different from any other weekend? Considering that there's like football games going on, baseball games, all these tickets are sold. The game's going on right now. My roommate is watching it. The Riders game is playing. How many people are in those stands right now? But a couple of family members can't get together to have Thanksgiving. Yeah, that didn't add up in a lot of people's heads, by the way. They couldn't convince people this time that 2 plus 2 equaled 5.
And then I'll just mention one thing, and I think we'll be done. You're talking about the vaccine. I'm seeing in some of my groups how people. Oh yeah, the mandate for federal workers and stuff. Many are, I think, quitting their jobs and going to, there's either starting their own jobs or going to live, you know,
Are you
live off the land or
are
something, I
you
guess.
freaking kidding? There are so many people. Say, this is where stupidity comes in. There are so many people that are collecting a paycheck that have toyed with the idea of starting their own business, and they probably know that they'd be successful, and they haven't because, well, fuck me drawers, the employer keeps putting money in their bank account. So why bother? Think, well, you might be toying with the idea, but if the employer's still putting money in your bank account and it's a decent amount of money, then, most people are just like, well, why bother? And I fully understand. I mean, why work that hard when you don't have to? And
And then they get this mandate, and they're like, okay,
exactly.
yeah, it would be such poetic or artistic justice or whatever if this whole thing backfired, if the swamps plan backfired on them so spectacularly that it actually ended up benefiting the people they were trying to jerk around, or they ended up deciding to benefit themselves, I
Well,
guess.
here's the thing. Here's the
So
thing. Things have changed a lot. I actually, I was watching a documentary and it quickly went through like some of the stuff that happened through the 80s and 90s and coming up through the oddies. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, okay. I was like, this is not the results that they're going to want. Because
mm-hmm.
I remember like big box stores coming to the neighborhood and everybody being excited because, oh, we'll be able to buy things like they have in the big city, right? And then to compete, the mom and pop shops tried to compete by upgrading, but they didn't do very well. They were stuck in a uh, uh, early 20th century model. But now the, you know, it was like, coming into the 21st century. That way of doing business was outdated. And so they quickly got swallowed up by the big box stores. Now we fast forward, what, 20, 25 years? There's a new crop of businessmen that have come up through. And they came up through a different way than their grandfathers or their parents did. And they have learned a lot from the big box stores. And what they have learned is that you don't have to keep everything, but you can know what you should keep and have it available for your customers. And these little stores are actually starting to win out because there's something else happening at the same time. People are tired of these massive, soulless corporations. They're just tired of
Yeah.
them. I mean, the campaign's on now, support local business. Support local business.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, I have watched that. That has reached a new height. Like, there are companies that I've worked with here in Regina. They won't even look at a baseball cap unless it was completely manufactured right here in Saskatchewan. And barring that, it has to be Canada, or they just won't even bother with that product. And they're doing good.
Yeah, and what's cool is that infrastructure has always
Yeah.
been here. There's been you can get it's amazing how much stuff is actually made in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
I'm pleasantly surprised when I see such and such, a lot of ag equipment, of course, but you would think I think there's a book, the Western Producer printed this book that was compiled of 1600 Saskatchewan town names and what they mean and what their history was and stuff, like in the 1960s. But I suppose there's print shops, there's everything.
Oh,
here.
I was, you know what blew me away? I was really surprised. Okay, in New Brunswick, there is no professional sound studio. There's a lot of small ones
really?
that people have put together, but they're not that great. But there is no professional sound booth, like recording place in New Brunswick. I find out hanging around with like musicians and bands, Saskatchewan has 3 of them. And that might not be impressive, but these are like, $1 million rooms with all this like sound equipment and all this soundproofing so that there's no interference from anything for the band so that they can tweak their sound. And yeah, I was like, are you shitting me? And they're like, yeah. And there's a new one going up. I forget where they said it was going up. It might have been in Saskatoon, but yeah, they were building a new one. I was like, holy shit, from the ground up. That's amazing. That to me, that blew my mind. That just goes to show that there's a lot of stuff happening in this province. And
Yes.
well, and this whole thing, this bullshit just destroyed everything. I mean, they destroyed it. It's sad to see, but I guess it had to happen. And yeah, there it is.
Okay. All right. Well, let's if you're all right with it, we can we end it there?
Yeah, we should. I think we've
I think
yeah.
so.
Anyways,
I think we've hit a good stopping place for this show.
Okay, well, I am Crow.
And I am Peter. This has been episode 3, season 2, episode 3.